how the world was before the creation of devil fruits. This revelation of Imu though answers so many questions, okay? One of which are the fruits of the Gorosei and people who have been corrupted by Imu, which we have been calling demon god fruits for a few years now. In fact, we predicted Imu having this devil fruit 2 years ago as soon as that tale was revealed. Even on our Zoro Eye video from like I think 3 or 4 years ago, we had already explained how the eyes are a mark of possession likely wielded by Imu. But the devil stuff also reveals how the final war will actually go, what Imu's goals are, and the origins of the One Piece world itself, including how Monkey Deadbeat Dragon has the final piece to defeat Imu. For years, Oda has layered religious imagery across the structure of the celestial dragons, framing them as divine elites or gods in name and privilege. However, just as Psalms 82:6 in the Old Testament says, "Ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High, but ye shall die like men." It calls mortal rulers gods who will always eventually fall. One Piece does this too, with Imu's divine title now turning into a hollow illusion. The gods of this world are not sacred, they are parasites cloaked in myth. Marishwa is called a holy land, a high place quite literally in the sky mirroring heaven. But even the name Marie-Joie evokes Mary, the mother of Christ, a false association suggesting purity and divinity. But we all know the Imu party goes down in that palace. Nothing pure about that, chat. Basically, the truth is inverted. The celestial dragons are no saint. Their angels of the seraphim are not divine protectors but engineered weapons. The very iconography of heaven has been hijacked, twisted by the world government to mask the truth. That at its core, the entity they worship and draw power from is not God, but the literal devil, which this chapter proves. So when Whitebeard says the world will be turned upside down upon the One Piece being found, he means that the world will be set straight again. Furthermore, Imu is the ruler of the empty throne. He's not a deity of light, but one of shadow. In Abrahamic tradition, the devil is a being who rebelled after the creation of man. In Christianity, he was a fallen angel. In Islam, he was a jinn who refused to bow to Adam, claiming superiority. This same arrogance echoes in Imu and the celestial dragons. They look down on all others as insects, as lesser beings unworthy of grace. When Saturn calls humans bugs, it's not a hyperbole, it's their doctrine. Using this idea of the devil rebelling due to the creation of man, Imu's Devil no Mi suggests something far more ancient than any devil fruit we have seen. In the mural of the three worlds, we were shown a towering figure of a devil looming above a crowned king. This wasn't just symbolic, it was a contract or a soul pact. The king, in exchange for dominion and power, offered life essence or soul energy to the devil. This energy would be consumed not just from people but from the planet itself, and then came the collapse. The mural seems to hint at a moment when the world was cracked open. The devil fed too deeply, draining the earth of its essence until it erupted in volcanic despair. The molten explosion, writhing like a serpent, formed what we now call the Red Line. It is a scar or a reminder of the devil's pact and the apocalypse that followed. The serpent-like shape of the volcanic eruption aligns with the biblical symbol of evil, a snake tempting humanity and fracturing paradise. In the aftermath of this cataclysm, the second world entered an unnatural darkness. The sun god was hidden, the air smothered with ash, but nature adapted. Fishmen arose to live in the seas. Giants were born to endure the cold and starvation, and at the center of this evolution stood a tree. All of the magic and haki from the first world concentrated upon it, giving birth to the mother of devil fruits, Sunlight Tree Eve. This tree became a new conduit of the world's will, infused with the soul of the sea and the voice of its people. When those in despair wished to survive, their will became incarnate. Haki turned into fruit, and those who were too powerful to die instead became fruits themselves, like the mythical zone fruits of Nika or Sengoku's Buddha fruit. Similarly, the Devil King, the original soul-eating entity, was one of them, and centuries later, Imu Nerona consumed that fruit, becoming the current incarnation of the devil, because as we know, mythical zones like Nika seek out the user that best embodies them. But to understand this devil further, we must also look at classical mythology, specifically Hades. In Greco-Roman lore, Hades ruled the underworld. His staff, a bident or three-pronged fork, it was the symbolic counterpart to Poseidon's trident. And this imagery carries forward into the modern depiction of the devil. Pitchfork in hand, Cerberus at his feet, likely inspiring the Figar lands. Hades is the archetype of the infernal king. In One Piece, Imu seems to channel the same essence. Their throne sits atop the world, yet their dominion is that of death, secrecy, and shadows. Poseidon, by contrast, was god of the seas, but here's the twist. Poseidon in One Piece is no god, she's a young mermaid, a pawn in the larger game representing the fish people. She exists not as a ruler, but as bait, a distraction while the devil pulls strings behind the curtain, which is similar to how people are led to care more about the racism between humans and fishmen, while the Celestials and Imu at the top are drowning the world and taking up all the resources as heavenly tribute. Oda is cooking, chat. Furthermore, there is one man who has known the truth and has been fighting to reveal it for decades. I'm talking about my goat, Monkey Deadbeat Dragon. From the shadows, he's been moving, not as a father, not just as a rebel, but as a man carrying a revolutionary gospel. Think about it, okay? Revolutionary army are always the ones tied to the word of God in the story, like Bartholomew Kuma walking around with a Bible like some lost apostle, or Ivankov, who was recently shown holding the book of Genesis. That's not a coincidence, but that's a pattern right there. Two of them, and then Dragon is gonna have the third book, because this isn't just a fight for freedom, this is a battle between heaven and hell. We know Ohara had discovered the truth of the world by reading the poneglyphs, ancient murals of the first world, and the Void Century. How? Well, Professor Clover and the scholars of Ohara had good relations with the giants of Elbaf, and they cataloged all of their findings into a collection of books that the Revolutionary Army now carries. And who was there when the giants saved those books? Monkey Deadbeat Dragon. Back then, just a rogue freedom fighter, but after witnessing the fall of Ohara, that's when he formed the Revolutionary Army for real. So let me put this into perspective, okay? The Bible in real life has 66 books. What if the books from Ohara were the One Piece equivalent, a complete record of humanity's creation, fall, prophecy, and rebirth? It was the real truth which threatened Imu's rule. The book of Genesis in this context would describe the creation of the second world. It contained the origins of the Adam and Eve tree, the Great Flood, Noah, and the world-shaping sin of maybe Zunisha that led to the oppression we see today. Kuma's Bible, well, I believe it's a standalone volume focused on Nika, the sun god, as those two characters have a lot in common. Nika was a Christ-like figure who brings joy, dances in the face of evil, and frees the enslaved. You can't get more Messiah-coded than that. But the final book, the one that ties everything together, would be the Book of Revelation, and Monkey Deadbeat Dragon is the one who holds it. Think about what Revelation means. It's the story of the final battle between good and evil, the fall of Babylon, the return of the Messiah, and the creation of the new heaven and new earth. In One Piece terms, Babylon is Marie Joie. The Messiah is Joy Boy, who returns in the body of Luffy, and the new world, that's Dawn, the final world after the collapse of the world government. And guess what? Luffy literally resurrected in Wano with Gear 5. When he died, it came back dancing with a smile. Bruh, Dragon knows the importance of Luffy. That's why he saved him in Loketown, not just as a father, but as a revolutionary who wants to see a new dawn. We've heard about the prophecy of the dawn for years, from Odin, from Joy Boy, from the whales that awaited the sovereigns, and that prophecy, it could be the final chapter in the Book of Revelation. A prophecy written 800 years ago, and the same prophecy that Madame Charlie's ancestor may have passed down. Everything is lining up. Odin's journal talks about Joy Boy's return. The prophecy lives on. If you enjoyed this video, watch this other dragon video on screen right now to support the Deadbeat movement. Thank you.